Hey, how you guys doing? My name is Richar and welcome to Richar with the Reactions. As always, glad to have you. Today we are reacting to a video by Casual Geographic, the terrifying truth about chimps. So I feel like chimps have been researched pretty extensively, so I wonder what new truths he has to reveal. So let's dive on in and see what he has to say. But before we do that, if this is your first time here, you just haven't done it yet, go ahead and hit the like button for me. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and notification bell. That way you can always see my reaction to videos like this or other videos you might like. Plus it helps the channel a lot. With that being said, let's dive on in.
One of the world's scariest animals just got a whole lot scarier, and Planet of the Apes is slowly becoming non-fiction. Because apparently chimpanzees are out here murking gorillas.
What?
Scientists in 2021 witnessed a troop of chimpanzees basically jumping a family of gorillas. And when I say gang, we're talking about almost 30 chimps pressing a family of 5.
Wow.
Keep in mind a silverback can weigh up to 400 pounds and could probably bench press your car. And according to witnesses, the silverback was eating chimps left and right like they were paper mache. But eventually the chimps overwhelmed the bigger silverback and even kidnapped a baby gorilla. I'm not going to tell you exactly what they did, but that family of 5 became a party of 4. And it wasn't even the last time, because later that year, scientists watched the same group of chimpanzees do the same exact thing. Square up with a family of gorillas, kidnapped a baby, and erase its name from the gorilla's census. And it's not like we didn't know chimps were about that. They often hunt bush babies and vervet monkeys, and we've even seen them use weapons like spears to do it. But it's one thing to hunt something that weighs like 5 Skittles. Going gorillas is another tier of Black Air Force activity, which is why I'd rather be locked in a room with a jaguar than a chimp. Because at least a jaguar gonna make it quick. That's exactly right. Chimpanzees have been known to hunt using spears, and the way they do it is not pretty. So what you gotta remember is these sociopaths share about 98% of their DNA with us, and they have more in common with humans than just thumbs. They're part of the special class of animals that can create and use tools, and chimps are probably the best at it. They'll take twigs, stick them in mounds, and literally go fishing for termites. They'll use stones as hammers to crack open nuts, and it's actually a lot harder than it looks. They'll use leaves as sponges to drink water, sticks to steal honey from bees. Some have even been seen making and using stone flakes, which are really close to what early humans used to make back in the day. But yeah, chimps also use spears by breaking off a stick, sharpening one end with their teeth, and then shoving it into the hollow part of a tree trunk. Because they know that's where bush babies sleep. Scientists watched them stab bush babies and force them out of their hiding spot in trees, where they proceeded to tear them apart and eat them alive. So they don't actually eat the spear the way a lot of people probably thought, but they're definitely too smart for everyone else's good. Also, fun fact, out of all the animals I've talked about, a chimp was probably the closest to ending my entire way of life. But that's a story for another video. Alright, so here's a story of how a chimpanzee nearly ended my entire way of life. So this was in Senegal, that little country right there. I was visiting for a couple months, and me and some family decided to go to a zoo that, looking back, was way too rundown to be called an actual zoo. The only thing separating the chimps from the general public were prison bars that were wide enough to stick your hand through. And before you even think it, no, I did not stick my hand into the chimp cage. I was 7, but I wasn't stupid. Now, if you wanted to see stupid, you'd have to look at the people around us. Some of them thought it'd be funny to throw things inside the chimp enclosure. Not to like hurt it, but I guess to scare it. Either way, nobody in that zoo was winning an award. Especially when someone started tossing rocks in there. Yeah,
What?
Stupidity marinade. I just remember watching a chimpanzee just sit there and take it. Until the people ran out of rocks. It wasn't until the chimpanzee started picking the rocks up that the people realized just what they did. They just gave an animal with thumbs and no regard for anything human ammo. So yeah, as you'd expect, the chimp started fastballing the stones back at the crowd, and all we could do was run and take cover. And I vividly remember crouching behind a bench, and when I got up, a rock flew past not more than 4 inches past my right eye.
Wow.
I was really just bad luck away from either doing this video with a glass eye or not doing this video at all. Look, you can say size matters all you want, but 4 inches made a difference that day. This picture might look cute, but it's actually one of the most disturbing things you'll ever see. I'm about to tell you one of the most messed up stories you've never heard of. So this guy, Dr. Kellogg, had the question I'm sure all of us have had at least once. What would happen if you raised a human without teaching it a language or having it around any other humans? Like a nature versus nurture kind of thing. It's one thing to think it, it's another to be on CPS's watch list.
Right.
So this guy had a human son, Donald, that he raised with a female chimpanzee he adopted named Gua. So he treated 10-month-old Donald and 7-month-old Gua the same in ways that would have had CPS, PETA, and the Geneva Convention pulling up. The experiment was weird. He would tap on both of their heads with a spoon just to hear the differences in the sound of their skulls. He would purposely make loud noises and provoke them just to see who would react first. At one point, he even spun Donald around on a high chair until he started crying. It got really dark really fast, especially when the human Donald started acting like his surrogate chimp sister, walking on all fours, being overly aggressive, and even biting people. It's a shame the Pikachu meme didn't exist back then. Donald would bark like Wall when he wanted food and refused to walk on 2 feet even though he could. Eventually, the man who somehow graduated with a doctorate in psychology from Columbia realized that he was ruining his son. So he called the experiment off. The chimpanzee that they treated like a daughter and was part of their family, yeah, they packed her up and sent her away to be part of another experiment, where she was unalived by pneumonia a few months later. As for Donald, he grew to be an adult and eventually became a doctor, until he deleted himself at the age of 42. And to add insult to whatever seasoned hell this was supposed to be, if you go over to Dr. Kellogg's Wikipedia, he was described as a guy who had no tolerance for those who were unethical.
Really?
Moral of this video, Thanos should start a GoFundMe. I'm starting to think he was onto something. Some stories just make you want to go off the grid and avoid humanity completely. And while that may not be an option for you with NordVPN, your internet can. Yeah, not my best transition. I'll be better. Here's why you should never give a chimpanzee Xanax. Sounds like common sense, but apparently it's not that common. Travis was a 13-year-old,
Yeah, that sounds like common sense.
That lived with his owners in Stamford, Connecticut. He spent his entire life around people and was basically treated as one of them. He would do things like use the family computer, watch baseball on TV. He knew how to open doors with keys. And sometimes he'd drink wine out of a glass after a long day. Everyone knew him, and he would even greet police officers whenever he would see them around in the neighborhood. I want you to remember that for later. Travis even drove a car, and he did it more than once. It's like if this dude was an actual member of society. Now, what would happen in 2009 wasn't out of nowhere. The red flags were there. He once climbed out of his owner's car and held up traffic for hours looking for a man that threw an empty bottle at the car. And there was one incident where Travis bit a woman's hand and tried to drag her into a car. But none of that was as bad as 09. I'm not going to make any jokes because this was honestly one of the most traumatizing things I've ever seen. Because one day in 2009, Travis left the house with his owner's keys and the owner and her friend Charlotte Nash tried to get it back. The only problem was Nash used his Tickle Me Elmo to try to bribe him back into the house. And seeing someone else hold his Elmo pissed Travis all the way off. Travis brutally mauled Nash, tearing out her face and limbs and not even stopping when his owner hit him over the head with a shovel. And as the attack got worse, his owner had no choice but to literally stab him in the back. And a literal butcher knife to the back only made Travis angry.
Oh no.
Eventually police were called. Yeah, the same police from earlier. It took multiple bullets just to get Travis to stand down. Travis limped back to the house, went to his cage, and passed away. The victim survived the attack, but Travis had ripped over 90% of her face off, like lips, eyes, nose, they were all gone. And I am telling you right now, do not Google that if you have a weak stomach. Those pictures personally me up for days when I first saw it. At the time, we didn't really know what set Travis off. Some sources said it was because Charlotte Nash was holding his Elmo. Others say it was because Nash had a different hairstyle that day and that freaked him out. But a toxicology report confirmed that Travis the chimpanzee had Xanax-laced tea the day of the attack. Travis's owner obviously got sued, but then she died of an aneurysm just a year later. It was just bad for everyone involved. But at the end of the day, the lesson here is the chimpanzee never went crazy. The chimp just went chimp. This man was attacked by an animal with a name that might just get me
It's a crazy
canceled.
story.
This is the work of Trombiculidae. But they're also known as, guidelines you better not homie, chiggers. A word that sounds like it has the potential to offend multiple ethnicities. Not to be confused with a species of parasitic flea known as jiggers. And honestly, I don't know what sounds worse. Chiggers, or chiggas, which is apparently less offensive, is a type of mite found all throughout the world, but the most infamous ones are found in the southeastern US, Midwest, and Mexico. I low-key forgot the warning, so if you don't like bugs, this might not be the video for you. Because chiggas don't really bite. They'll actually just burrow themselves into your skin, make a little hole, and then spit out enzymes that break down skin cells, which is exactly where the swelling and irritation comes from. The worst part is, you usually don't start itching until after the larvae falls off you. It's like you're not allowed to suffer until they're done with you. And once they are, they fall to the ground where they end up becoming their harmless adult forms. And normally the bumps they leave heal on their own. Also, the chiggas in North America usually don't carry disease, they're just really annoying to be around. But yeah, I can't tell you who named them, but I can tell you they did not have a good home life.
Wow.
I feel like someone owes me reparations for making me say it. So somebody sent me this, and I actually think there's a right answer here, but first I'm actually curious, which one would you choose? Like, which one do you think you'd have the best shot with? Off rip, we can go ahead and eliminate the rhino. For a couple reasons. Rhinos have really bad eyesight and even worse anxiety. Mostly because they have to share a zip code with animals that would literally eat them balls first. Life is multiple choice, and rhinos consistently choose battery. So if this anxiety-riddled warhorse has a panic attack near you, you will be a chalk outline. The Komodo's an instant game over too. Because Komodos don't flatline their prey with bacteria the way we thought they did. This homicide gecko is actually venomous. And they've been known to dig out human graves and eat the corpses, so don't think you can't get meal prep too. One bite and it's credits, and there's nowhere in the apartment you can go where this 10-foot leather assault weapon can't get to you. Now the jaguar is actually an interesting one. Jaguar attacks on people are really rare. They're usually in self-defense. So you'd actually have a better chance of surviving in a room with a jaguar as long as you don't provoke it or do anything to make him think you're food. However, jags are solitary, and in a one-bedroom apartment, if that jaguar feels like you're in its space, it could be lights out. Which is why your best shot is actually with the gorilla. They're natural pacifists that won't waste the calories attacking something that they don't view as an immediate threat to them. So as long as you don't look him in the eye, or smile at him unless you're trying to be Harambe's roommate, your best chance at winning and, living is with the gorilla. I want to show y'all something.
Interesting.
So I made a video on this, and a lot of people were commenting how they choose the Komodo since all they'd have to do is climb and counter, just wait there for 37 minutes. Some even said they could manhandle the leather assault weapon if they needed to. I'm not going to talk about how Komodos can be nearly 10 feet long. I'm not going to mention the fact that young Komodos can climb trees. And I'm certainly not going to acknowledge the fact that out of all the animals here, Komodos are the only ones that will actively eat humans. Nah, I'm not going to talk about any of that. Instead, I'm going to show you this. No further comment.
So the question about which animal would you want to be in a room with for 37 minutes was kind of interesting. My first thought when I saw that is, well, I probably want to be in the room with the animal that doesn't eat meat. And out of the 4 choices they gave us, there's actually 2. There was the rhino, right? And there was the gorilla. Their diets are mostly vegetarian. But horns freak me out, especially ones as big as the ones that are on rhinos, right? So I would just go with the gorilla and just hope it all works out. That actually is the best choice. I agree with Casual Geographic there. And the other story that stuck out for me was when the doctor did that experiment on his son and the adopted chimp. That really didn't make very much sense to me. There's quite a bit of research to suggest that the first 7 years of a human's life are very fundamental in how they develop and go on to live their lives. And you would use that time to experiment on your son. That is not what you should be doing with your children. I'm glad that he came to the realization that that was not the right thing to do, but it's one of those things that you shouldn't have done in the first place. There was someone on Jurassic Park who said, you spent so much time thinking about if you could, you didn't really think about whether you should. And with that, I will end today's video. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day.